What is the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on new academic job seekers? Stick around, let's talk about it today on this episode of Navigating Academia. What's up, Navigating Academia family? This is Dr. Phoenix Singh coming at you with another episode of Navigating Academia, your leading source for guidance on how to be able to advance your career in academia. Now, before we get started, please do me a huge favor and smash that like button. Comment below if you enjoyed the video because it helps us out a ton with the algorithm. And if you love this material and you're a current subscriber, please do make sure to follow us on Patreon to be able to support the channel, get a personalized shout out from me, access to exclusive content, and also discounts when it comes to one-on-one coaching with me. Now, speaking of that, if it is something where you're interested in applying for tenure track faculty positions or even adjunct positions and you want some assistance in the development of your pedagogical statement, of a cover letter, of a statement of purpose, and so forth, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me via the website below. You can book a one-on-one session and we can talk about the future for you and your academic career. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what we'll be talking about in this episode today, which is essentially COVID-19. Oh my gosh, the pandemic. Insane. I don't know how it was for you guys here in Virginia, here in the United States. I still remember, guys, when everything shut down here in the U.S. To the point where, everybody was literally just stuck at home for months at a time. There was nothing in the grocery stores. You'd go into the bread aisle, and there was barely anything, you name it. And of course, everything was revolutionized when it came to getting folks up to speed with digital strategies, i.e. online education, so kind of modern distance learning. Why is this a big deal? The first company that I founded back in 2013 was one of the first ever e-learning companies, so online education companies, in my field of forensic psychology and forensic mental health in general. I still remember really big name people in the field telling me that I had no chance, I had no shot of making that company a success because, and I still remember a really big name person in my field saying, listen, nobody will ever do online training. Are you out of your mind? I still remember that conversation very clearly back in 2012 when I was still considering launching the company. So it's one of these things where, always listen to everybody and then do what you're gonna do. But get a lot of good advice first, even if advice is really bad, usually 1% of it, it's a little nugget of gold there, right? So make sure that you seek out that advice whenever you can when it comes to career planning. Could be from me, could be from anybody else. But of course, I love that you guys watch this channel. So here's the thing about COVID-19's impact. Two things have kind of happened. Number one is that so many universities are switching at least part of their curricula online. One of the reasons this is really important is that you can pay professors significantly less to be able to develop content for you because these professors can be flipping anywhere in the entire country or they can be international. Okay, so this is something that's important to be able to know is that salaries, this can have a really negative effect on salaries within academia. Already, over 80% of positions are not tenure track faculty positions. Most of them are adjunct positions, for example, or research faculty positions where, you get to keep what you kill in terms of securing external funding, or clinical professors who basically, when it comes to being a clinical professor, it's more of like an honorary title. Really depends the kind of institution that you're at. In some cases, it's a much more legitimate positions, but I've seen it go absolutely both ways. So the issue with this more than anything else is already we didn't have a lot of tenure track faculty positions, and now the competition is that much higher. All the way back in 2012, there was a paper that I ended up reading that was published here as a national study here in the US of universities, four-year universities, and what they ended up finding is that approximately a little under, I think it was 32%, so a little under 1/3 of all students at the undergraduate level had taken some kind of an online course during their undergraduate years. So this is one of these things where it has only exploded further over time, as you can imagine. And during the pandemic, it hit all-time highs. All of a sudden, you had professors who were really kind of like technophobes, really afraid of technology. they had no choice. They had to get everything online. And all of a sudden, what you ended up seeing is a lot of folks who were just like, oh, well, we're kind of these legends in our field. We would never do anything online. We're just going to keep teaching in person, because they had no choice and they had to learn those skill sets to be able to effectively teach online. Now it's something where they're really comfortable with that. Now, why is this an issue? Because the other thing that COVID-19 has impacted is the closing of universities. Some estimates go as high as saying that 20% of all universities in the United States either have closed or will be closing within the next 2 to 3 years. And there's a lot of reasons for that we can talk about in another video. Principal amongst them is essentially universities that rely on international students, and we basically had a total drought of international students because of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Nobody was traveling. Even still now, at the time that I'm making this video, a lot of folks are not allowed to travel into the United States, or we're not allowed to be able to travel to those countries. So just something to be able to take into consideration. Now, here's the issue. With all those universities closing, you don't just have kind of folks with 1 year of experience at those universities closing down. You have folks with decades of experience in terms of developing courses, teacher evaluations that are just glowing in nature. You have folks who have loads of publications, a long history of securing external funding, long histories of going out to leading conferences and giving talks, you name it. So if you're somebody just like I was, so don't worry, I was in the exact same position, except not in the pandemic many years ago when I was going for my first tenure track position. And that's really daunting in the first place. But now the fact that we have so many people, it's like this glut, this massive amount of individuals, so like talent that's out there, we need to make sure that if you're kind of a new applicant and you've never held this kind of a tenure track position before, and that's the direction you want to go, is being a tenure track professor, then it's something where you need to understand that the competition is going to be insane. So you need to make sure that you follow a few guiding principles. The first one is to be able to leverage being young. Being young is a good thing, especially if you're young and you're good. And what I mean by being good is that the quality of your work is exceptionally high. And this can be shown by, for example, not just getting more publications, but getting more publications in really high impact. And what is high impact is going to change for your field. Getting into journals that are really high impact for your field, developing very close collegial relationships with individuals at your target institution, wherever you want to apply, and also developing strong relationships with individuals who are big names in the field or are kind of rising stars in the field. And these are folks who sometimes they're, mid-career, so they're in their 40s and 50s usually. In some cases, they can even be like, I became a tenured full professor when I was 27, right? I was the youngest tenured full professor in the whole country of Norway, right? And I remember when that happened, and it was something where a key reason that occurred for me was because I was publishing very often. At the time I had over 40 publications, maybe even over 50 publications. I had written several books by that point, and I had co-edited a book with my mentor in Norway at the university. I had brought a lot of positive press attention to my university. I got to know the dean exceptionally well. I built my international network very strongly so that people, whether they liked me or not, and whether they even knew my work or not, they still knew my name. And you can do that too. There's nothing special about me in that regard. I just went out and I hustled. You gotta be on that social capital, that social currency grind. Make sure that people know about you and that they know that you're not an arrogant person going around and saying, look at my papers, they're so amazing, or look at my edited book chapter, it's phenomenal, or did you hear from my press release that I got that new external funding opportunity? That's ridiculous. Don't do that. It makes it seem like a dick, okay? We want this to be a situation where you come across as very humble, but also very capable, because that means you're the kind of person that these folks would want to work with, but also in terms of the leadership, be it a department chair, a dean, so on and so forth. These are folks who say, you know what? This person is an investment. They're young, but they're talented, especially if you can get some external funding. They can bring in money, especially if you're at something like, let's say, a soft money institution. And here in the US, you can get something like like a K mechanism from, NIH and so forth. NIH is National Institutes of Health for anybody who's not familiar. Maybe you're outside the U.S. Maybe you've got an NSF, grant, you name it. There's loads, Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, loads of these private foundations also. They have faculty scholars programs, early career professionals programs. If you can align yourself with kind of those big name, not just big name people, but big name foundations, big name funders, this is the name of the game, okay? But really, social currency, high impact publications, external funding. Be on that grind for as long as you need to be. Remember that something that we talk about oftentimes on this channel is that you never want to go to people with kind of your hands out and saying like, will you be on a publication with me? Do you have something that, a project that I can work on? I really want to volunteer in your lab. That's not good. Okay, especially these days, it's just not good. Don't go to, everybody's trying to get research experience and clinical experience and all these sorts of experiences. So if you're working for free and you don't have a strong background already, it's gonna be really hard for you to be able to get new opportunities to build up that CV so that you have a chance at securing one of these tenure track positions. And I know that that's really rough to hear, but you guys, this is why you watch this channel, is because I'm very straightforward with you, because I care and because I want you to secure the position of your dreams at the university of your dreams, and then to be able to have a thriving academic career. Some of us need to step it up, okay? And instead of, doing Netflix and going out and having drinks over the weekends, you need to be grinding. You need to be getting data sets off of open data databases. You need to be really sharpening your statistical analytics skills and your research methodology skills. There's so many places, including here on YouTube. And obviously, you can always book sessions with me and I can teach you a huge amount about stats, especially advanced statistical analytic techniques like meta-analysis or different types of advanced regression, psychometric tool development, and so forth. I can teach all those things, prognostic prediction, retrospective prediction. I can teach all that stuff. But you need to develop really advanced skill sets because it makes you a weapon, and then you have to deploy the weapon. Right? If you're working on something, like I said, from like an open science database, an open data database, if you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, do me a huge favor and just go to Publication Academy, which is publicationacademy.com, go to Build a Custom Curriculum and just get the course that is specifically on best practices in open science. That's going to give you so many of these details and tons of resources you can utilize. But get that data that's already collected. In most cases, it's already clean. The data sets are clean. Do you know how much time it would take to be able to develop a data set like that kind of fresh? And then what you can do is you can go to the developers of the data set and say, hey, I know these advanced statistical techniques. I would love to be able to, put a paper together and maybe even collaborate on it. I'll do all the work on the piece, but maybe we can discuss it up front. I'll do all the writing. Maybe you can help in terms of some of the revisions or reading it over, and especially when it comes to the methodology section. So the method section, you can give me any feedback on whether or not I'm kind of correctly describing how the data set was developed and such, right? And in this way, they would qualify for co-authorship based on the International Council of Medical Journal Editors, so ICMJE guidelines, which are utilized both in medicine and outside of medicine as well. So they have several criteria that you need to meet. And let me tell you, this is an incredibly important thing to know ethically, who should be on papers and not. Again, on Publication Academy, there's a module all about ethical best practices in conducting and publishing research. You can get that module as well if you're interested. So those are really my recommendations because the job market, guys, is nuts right now. It is super crazy. So that's what I have for you today. Like I said, if you're interested in talking one-on-one about these sorts of issues, please do go ahead and touch base with me via the website below, which is www.jphoenixsingh.com, and we'll go ahead and hopefully sort out all your materials so you have the best chance possible. But in the meanwhile, I really appreciate you guys. Yes, I am aware that the mic has been slowly but surely drifting down. It just wants to be friends with all of us. So thank you, Rode, the brand, for wanting to be friends. Maybe they'll even sponsor the channel. That'd be great. Speaking of sponsoring the channel, join our Patreon. All right, guys, in seriousness, though, I appreciate you for watching. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to get out there, take chances, and be your best self. Peace. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.